What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday. Happy freaking weekend. And let's talk about the U.S. economy today because it turns out bad news is bad news again. Yeah, remember the old Wall Street trick? Bad news is good news because it meant the Fed would cut rates and give the markets another free hit like a junkie on Powell's stash. Well, congratulations. The dealer's out of dope. The August jobs report came in at a pathetic 22,000 jobs, and the market didn't even cheer. That's right. We're officially at the point where even Wall Street's like, dude, you're coughing blood. I can't spin this as cardio or you cleaning out your lungs. Unemployment also ticked up to 4.3%. That's not apocalyptic, but it's also not the booming economy that Trump keeps promising while he's busy trying to fire half of the Fed like it's a season of The Apprentice monetary policy edition. Now, let's talk about how bad news is bad again. Here's what changed. For the last couple of years, every time the economy sneezed, markets said, bless you, here's a rally. Bad news was good news because it meant Daddy Powell would lower interest rates. But now the Fed's already expected to cut rates in September. It's priced in. Wall Street's already banking on it. So when the jobs report came in weak, the market didn't cheer. It tanked. Why? Because once rate cuts are baked in, the only thing left on the menu is possibly that we're just actually sliding toward a recession. And bad news stops being a contrarian idea and goes back to being, well, bad. It's like when your drunk uncle falls at Thanksgiving. The first couple times it's funny, by the sixth time you're calling an ambulance. And right in the middle of this, Trump is picking a fight with the Fed. Again, you'd think after 4 years of calling Jerome Powell every name in the book short of Sleepy J, he'd finally take a breath and back off and maybe pick on someone in his own weight class. But no, Trump has decided that the Fed is single-handedly destroying the housing market, which is funny because last I checked, mortgage rates are set by the bond market, not Jerome Powell personally. Powell doesn't wake up in the morning, check Zillow and go, yeah, screw Ohio today, 7% for you people. But Trump doesn't care. He's decided Powell is choking out the housing market, and he's making it personal. Enter Lisa Cook, a Fed governor who suddenly finds herself accused of mortgage fraud by, wait for it, Bill Pulte. Yes, the 37-year-old grandson of the founder of Pulte Homes, because nothing says independent oversight like a home building heir turning into a vigilante mortgage cop on Twitter. Pulte claims Cook claimed two primary residences to get better mortgage rates. And you know what? If she did, that's dumb. But let's be honest, who hasn't lied to a bank on a form at least once? Half of America has listed their dog as an emotional support animal just to avoid a pet fee. The governor doing it, yeah, it's bad optics, sure, but it's also classic Trump. If you can't control the Fed with policy, control it with scandal. Now, here's where it gets dangerous. The Fed is supposed to be independent. That means it can make tough calls like raising rates when inflation is hot, even if it pisses off politicians. But if Trump stacks the board with loyalists who cut rates just because he says so, markets won't see lower mortgage rates. They'll see chaos. Think about it. If you're a bond investor and suddenly believe the Fed is just Trump's personal ATM, you're not lowering yields. You're demanding higher ones because the risk of runaway inflation just went up. That means long-term interest rates, including the 30-year mortgages, could spike even higher. Trump might actually get the opposite of what he wants. It's like a guy trying to fix a clogged sink by pouring cement down the drain right now. Now, remember what happened during COVID? The Fed cut rates to zero. Mortgage rates fell below 3%, and suddenly everyone wanted to buy a house. Home prices went up 26% in 2 years. It wasn't an affordability miracle, it was a bubble. So the irony is, if Trump got his wish and rates went back to 2% or 3%, prices would explode all over again, like creaming in your jeans explode. You'd have cheap mortgages for houses, well, that you can't afford. So Dan Frio, a mortgage advisor in Illinois, literally said, I don't want rates back at 2%. That's like a bartender saying, I don't want happy hour. People drink too much. You know it's bad when the guy who makes money off volume says, please, for the love of God, stop. So, where are we? Where does this leave us? Huh? Well, the jobs market is weak, inflation is still above target, the Fed is under political siege, and mortgage rates are at 6.5%, which is low for this year, but still unaffordable for most middle class Americans. And here's the kicker: markets are begging for rate cuts, but the reason for those cuts keeps getting uglier. Rate cuts to save the economy are like drinking to cure depression. It works for a night, but it's not a plan. We're entering a world where bad news is just bad. Job losses are bad for families, weak earnings are bad for stocks, and rate cuts won't be a magic bullet anymore. They'll just be another band aid on a patient who needs surgery. So, yes, Trump gets his Fed full of loyalists, and maybe we'll get rate cuts. But last time a politician controlled the central bank, it was Turkey. And let me tell you, the only thing cheaper than their mortgages was their currency. America doesn't want to be Turkey, unless, of course, it's Thanksgiving. Anyways, that's our breakdown for the day. I hope you all have an amazing weekend this weekend. Happy Saturday to all my party people out there. I'll catch you guys in the next breakdown. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and see you guys in the next one. Love you, babes.